With the play-in tournament over, we now know the final 8 teams will be competing at the end of season playoffs in the hopes of making the grand finals in Philadelphia to become our Overwatch League Season 2 champion. So for today's video, just like I did with the play-in tournament, I want to briefly see how each of the teams got here before discussing the first round matchups that kick off this week, finishing with my full playoff bracket prediction, although it's probably something that I'm going to have to go back to over the next couple of weeks. Funnily enough, the play-in tournament in theory ended up being useless, as for 2 teams to qualify through it were our 8th and 7th seeds from the regular season, in the Seoul Dynasty and London Spitfire. Seoul might have had a very inconsistent regular season, but at this stage it's been pushed firmly behind them, as they surprised many by overcoming the Guangzhou Charge in their play-in match despite being heavily predicted to lose. The Dynasty seemed to have adapted very well to this new meta within the Sigma patch, with Marvel having a very impressive showing on the new hero, whilst Michelle put in a solid display flexing onto Orisa. The support line of Toby and Jaehong had a very strong outing themselves, with Jaehong's Moira especially having a major impact throughout the series. And lastly, the DPS duo of Fitz on Doomfist and Fletter on either McCree or Reaper managed to shut down arguably the most informed DPS lineup from Stage 4 in Nero, Happy and Eileen from the Charge. A week ago no one expected much from Seoul, but following this incredibly strong performance that has qualified them for the playoffs, many have taken notice and now see them as a legitimate threat that could potentially go further than anticipated in the playoff bracket. As for London, it looks once again like they've been handed a comfortable meta at just the right time, with the team looking impressive in their first and only showing since the release of Sigma. Jester seems to have got to grips with the new hero quickly, and generally the DPS pairing of Prophet and Birdring put in strong displays on a variety of heroes, not forgetting Bedosen, who was outstanding throughout the series on Ana as well. Yes, they were a little sloppy throughout the series against Shanghai, a problem they had all year, but given how strong I think the Dragons were in this new meta of Doomfist and Pharah, which suited them to a T, I think that the fact that the Spitfire just battled past them puts them in a really strong position to try and do a low-seeded playoff run like last year, which I'm certain will play in the back of opponents' minds as we head into the playoffs. But as for the teams that automatically qualified, let's start with the 6th seed Atlanta Reign. The first couple of stages of the regular season were a little over the place for this squad, as they had to contend with roster changes, all the while trying to find their footing as one of the new expansion sides entering the league this season. This was highlighted especially in Stage 2, where they extraordinarily defeated the New York Excelsior twice, but at the same time suffered ugly losses to Boston and the Valiant. They had high expectations for Stage 3, but despite putting on impressive displays, a very tough strength of schedule saw them pick up 5 consecutive losses. The Reign rebounded back in Stage 4, carrying momentum from their successful homestand, to dominate and finish with a 7-0 record thanks to some great play from players like Erster, FRD and Dogman, which has many pegging them for a deep playoff run, as they carried the most momentum of any squad here. The LA Gladiators ended up with the 5th seed after a strange season themselves. They surprisingly missed out on the stage playoffs at the beginning of this season, and whilst having some strong periods, never were able to remain consistently at the top of their game, with some poor losses to teams like the Uprising and Outlaws. With a talented roster, they definitely have the potential to make a splash in these playoffs, especially if their DPS duos Shurfa and Decay play at their best. Too often though, they play down to their competition and struggle to win against the very best opposition, so there's still a lot of questions facing the remaining LA team before people are confident to call them true contenders. We now arrive at the Hangzhou Spark, who ended the regular season 4th in the overall standings. This team is in many ways quite similar to the Gladiators, and they've been a little inconsistent throughout the season. They've started off Stage 1 really well, but language barrier issues combined with the constant swapping of starting lineups resulted in an average start. In Stages 2 and 3 however, they finally discovered how to create their best lineup, which resulted in this team getting a lot of momentum behind Gushui, who had a fantastic run of form at main tank, often being the one to propel his side forward and having the most impact in teamfights. As the season went on, IDK and Godsby also started to show their high levels of talent, whilst also being supported by good displays from players like Rhea and Bebe, which put them in a very strong position to automatically make the top 6. A small wobble at the beginning of Stage 4 showed that this team needed a little time to adjust to the new meta, whilst also being prone to the odd upset when the team isn't on form. However, they eventually rectified this to finish the season strong, although the question now will be if they can adjust to this new Sigma meta quickly enough in order to avoid a quick and disappointing exit. One team who I certainly don't imagine struggling to adapt, however, is the 3rd seeded San Francisco Shock. They've definitely been one of the most impressive sides throughout this season, with their only main bad run of form coming right at the beginning of the season, where they had a few hiccups finding their feet, all the while playing quite a difficult strength of schedule. Since then though, they've never looked back, and have been simply marvellous, taking to the Titans to the brink of the Stage 1 finals, as well as the Dragons in Stage 3, actually defeating their long-standing Vancouver adversary in the Stage 2 finals after a golden stage, before finishing the season on the back of a 7-0 record, which saw them beat the Titans again. I personally believe that their squad is the deepest, and has the most talent to pick from. They have to be the favourite of many to go on and become our Season 2 champions. Finally we have our top 2 seeds, and let's begin with the New York Excelsior, who only have this 2nd seed as a result of them winning the Atlantic Division, despite their record being worse than the 3rd seeded San Francisco Shock. New York have had a strange season, where at times they've looked really strong, but it's hard to say they've ever really contested Vancouver, and San Francisco right at the very top. Their style I think is too centered on focusing resources into Jonak, which hasn't nearly been as effective with the metas we've had over the course of this season. So despite some amazing displays from Mano, they've never really seemed that scary, at least in comparison to their height in 2018. They've also been a little all over the place in terms of their starting DPS, which I think has had an effect on their performances, and heading into these playoffs I'm sure I'm not the only one who has little faith in them finding success, especially when you factor in the LW Blue curse as well. The number 1 seed of Vancouver Titans, however, have certainly earned this position after a simply extraordinary debut season. They came in from contenders and dominated the GOATS meta with strong performances from Bumper on Rhine, Twilas and Zen, and Janio and D.Va. The rest of the team has also looked really good, but has led to continued successes throughout the stages. Their first loss actually only came in the Stage 2 finals to the Shock, and whilst they would lose a further 3 times over the course of the following 2 stages, they never finished the stage with a record worse than 5-2, highlighting how like the Shock, they've kept up a very impressive level of success. As DPS has started to take over the last couple of metas though, this team has at times looked a little shaky and unsure besides really Hacksaw who should be playing, with Siominsu, Stitch and Hurek all getting playtime. So whilst no one shouldn't be considering them for a shot at becoming Season 2 champions, especially with their quality at both tank and support, the main question will be how their DPS players perform when they arguably are needed the most in this upcoming meta. What about my predictions of the 4 confirmed first round matchups? And if I had to predict it now, what would my full playoff bracket look like, even if I'm probably going to get it all wrong? The first match kicking us off on Thursday is between the 1 seed Vancouver Titans and the 8 seed Seoul Dynasty. With how strong Seoul have looked in their victory over the Charge, this series suddenly has a little more anticipation being built up for it. Undoubtedly Vancouver have been one of the most consistently strong squads throughout the season, but it'll be interesting to see how they adjust to this new meta around Sigma. Whilst I expect most teams to follow in London and Seoul's footsteps by having their main tank play Sigma, the Titans I reckon might be one of the few teams who go against this mold, as Bumper has surprisingly been a really strong player on Orisa, backed up by his statistics on her, whilst Jano has shown his ability to flex onto newer tank heroes like Hammond. Therefore, I think the key battles that will determine the outcome of this match will be between Marvel and most likely Jano and Sigma, and then the DPS lineups, with the supports being quite evenly matched on paper, in my opinion, within this meta. Once we've seen how good Fitz and Fleta looked against Guangzhou, the fascinating question will be who from Vancouver pairs probably Hacksaw on the Doomfist. This is where I think there's a key difference between these two squads, as we saw in Stage 4 a little indecision from the Titans about who should play out as Stitch, Siominsu or Hurek, and I feel this is what will give the Dynasty the tiniest of edges come this series, having looked marvellous against the Charge, but given that we haven't seen Vancouver in this meta yet, this is certainly a pick that I could see going either way. Match 2 sees the Hangzhou Spark take on the LA Gladiators, in what I believe is actually the hardest game to predict, given the track record of both of these teams. They probably have the worst form heading into the playoffs of any of the teams competing here, so it's really hard to judge what they're going to be able to do. With how average Guushui looked on Orisa, I firmly expect him to be the one playing the Sigma, whilst the rumours are that we might see Hydration running the Sigma for the Gladiators, but arguably he could be a brilliant fit playing Pharaoh or Doomfist as well. There are so many unknowns we haven't seen either play, so I think this game is really a pick'em, with its outcome again coming as a result of the winners of the Sigma matchup, and the DPS contest between Godspeed and either Shawford, Decay or Hydration, whoever is chosen. I'm certain that Guushui will look a lot better if he plays Sigma, but overall I think at their best the Gladiators have a higher quality across all 3 roles, which I'm going to just slide in their favour. The Noik Excelsior faced the London Spitfire in the 3rd matchup of the opening round of the playoffs, and right now I can only see the series heading in one direction. New York did look improved in their match against the Titans in Stage 4, with Flower really playing a key role, and I'm expecting it will be on his shoulders on Farah, as well as Mano's rumoured strong Sigma, if New York want to have any hope of winning. But with Jonak probably unlikely to have a major impact, and given how good London looked in their match against what looks like an impressive Dragon side, I just can't see the Spitfire losing here, so I'm predicting further playoff heartbreak for the Excelsior once again. Opening round matches conclude with what was considered, and still is by many, the most interesting and exciting matchup we have confirmed, as the San Francisco Shock play the Atlanta Reign. Now, what I'm about to say I'm sure will get a little bit of backlash, but in all honesty, right now I don't think this series will be nearly as close as many others think. Sure, Atlanta were fabulous in Stage 4, but I think that the pool port meta that we had really suited them to a T, and I don't see them playing nearly as well with Sigma. It will probably be Daka or FRD on the Sigma, but in a head-to-head against either Choi or Nevix, I just see them as an underdog. And whilst Urstra has been marvellous, I struggle to see who accompanies him. The heroes being played at the moment not really suiting Baby Bay, whilst Enlair I believe just gets beaten in the head-to-head against options available to the Shock including Rascal and Architect. To put it simply, I just think that the squad of San Francisco is superior in every way, and will more easily adapt to this new meta, which their coaches I'm sure have already drilled firmly into them. So I reckon that San Francisco will pick up the win here, and perhaps like the Seoul vs Charge series, win more dominantly than most people expect. Obviously these are the only games I can definitely pick right now, but just as I did for the play-ins, I just want to give you all a quick look at what my complete bracket looks like at this moment in time. Taking the winners I currently have gives me a winners semi, the Dynasty vs Gladiators, which I think I'd have to give to Seoul at this moment in time. There's an extremely spicy matchup between the Spitfire and Shock. I also think both of these teams are certainly in contention to win it all. I would have to back the reliability and consistency of San Francisco, whose squad I feel is superior and will adapt well to this meta. As for the winners final, although I'd love Seoul to beat the Shock, I think at least initially it would be hard to see them being taken down, so I'd hand them the win and a spot in the grand finals. This takes us on to the losers bracket, where I think the first round is a pretty simple equation, with the Titans overcoming the Spark, whilst the Reign complete the three-peat, knocking out an Excelsior side that, as I've said, I have absolutely no faith in. This gives us an awesome second round series as the Spitfire would play the Titans, and whilst I definitely could see Vancouver winning here, I think that London will have entered playoff mode and will somehow manage to clutch it out. As for the other matches in the Gladiators and the Reign, I think I would still ride with the momentum of Atlanta, even with the slight issues I think they might have. That said, I don't see them overcoming London in the following round if that were to happen. This will give us a losers final of a Dynasty vs Spitfire, and whilst I know I'm probably going to be called biased for this, just based upon what we've seen from both teams in the play-ins, I genuinely believe that Seoul look better and more comfortable within this meta, so I take them to win here in a very hotly contested match. This however gives us a grand finals, the Shock versus the Dynasty, and again it's hard to look past the Shock for this one, as I just think they've been the best team throughout this season and completely deserving winners. That said, if Seoul has made it this far, I'd be no true fan of theirs if I didn't trust them to get it done and become Season 2 champions, although I'm almost 100% certain this bracket will end up being a load of nonsense quite soon enough, with some first round predictions being wrong. So let me know down in the comments below how you see it planning out. And with that, we reach the end of my playoffs preview and predictions. I'd like to thank you for watching. As I mentioned at the start, this is probably something I'll return to next week to see what has actually happened, how my predictions have fared, and what adjustments I might have to make. So if you enjoyed and don't want to miss out, please like, subscribe, and follow me on Twitter for continuing competitive Overwatch coverage and content. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.